Can you start now? Now you can start, ma'am. Please tell about that.
বাসুদেব আমি বলবো
হ্যাঁ লাইভ স্টার্ট করো সুবীর প্লিজ স্টার্ট দি লাইভ এন্ড ম্যাডাম স্টার্ট ইট ইউ read out the biodata and introduction. Okay.
Dr. Kaushik Ghosh now presenting the session. Dr. Kaushik Ghosh is presently attached to the engineering science department of the University of Burdwan, India University of Institute of Technology, as an assistant professor of mathematics. He did MSc and MPhil in applied mathematics from the University of Calcutta, India, in the year 1998 and 2000 respectively, and obtained his PhD in astrophysics from the same university in the year 2004. He has been awarded SN Bose Centenary Award, Young Scientist Award by Calcutta Mathematical Society. In a nutshell, his research area are stellar and substellar astrophysics, analysis of time series and statistical signal processing, application in solar signal and financial time series, nonlinear system and dynamics, mathematical modeling in the biological system, social and behavioral sciences, pattern recognition. He has about 150 publications in different reputed journals and conference proceeding, and he has presented papers or delivered invited talks at about 180 seminar workshop inside or outside the India till date. He is regular reviewer of different estimated international journals on signal processing, mathematical biology, astrophysics, etc. He is a member of editorial board of International Journal of Astrophysics and Space Science. 8 candidates already got the PhD award under his supervision, and 1 candidate has submitted his thesis for PhD degree. In addition to this, presently 1 research scholar is working under his guidance for PhD degree. He has worked as joint convener at 6 international conferences, 10 national seminar conferences, and worked a member of a organizing committee at national conferences, seminar, and 1 pre-conferences tutorial, 1 management development program, and 2 staff development programs. He is a live member of learned societies like Indian Sciences Congress Association, Calcutta Mathematical Society, Calcutta Institute of Theoretical Physics, Indian Society of Nonlinear Analysis, Advanced Center for Nonlinear and Complex Phenomena, and Biomathematical Society of India. He worked as the Assistant Secretary at the tenure 2012 to 15, and presently he is the Treasurer of the Calcutta Mathematical Society since 2015. Joint Secretary of Indian Society of Nonlinear Analysis since 2018, and member of the Executive Council of Advanced Center for Nonlinear and Complex Phenomena since 2017. Besides his academic activity, he served the institute also as the nodal officer of institutional reform under the TEQIP Phase 2, a World Bank initiative. He is an eminent person. I request him to deliver our special lecture in this webinar.
So thank you, madam. Thank you for your very kind invitation and introduction. And let me thank the organizers first for arranging this particular type of workshop, and also giving me the opportunity to deliver my talk in this particular scenario. So I will be starting my talk. I just wait, just open it up. Yeah. So I'm sharing my slide. Please just check whether it's coming or not. Is it coming?
No, sir, actually, it is not
coming?
coming now. Not actually, sir. No, it is not coming now.
No, it is coming. It is coming. I am
Coming?
looking it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Just-
Okay.
Okay. So I'm looking at
Yes.
full page
Yes.
version. Yeah. Okay. So thank you, everyone. Let me start my talk. Today, I will be delivering a talk on progress of astronomical research in India from ancient time to modern age. I have chosen this popular talk because I feel that if I go to a very technical extent of astronomy or astrophysics, then it will not be actually very much well accepted by different categories of audience present here. So I've chosen a particular topic which can be a very popular one, as well as some information I should try to provide in the context of Indian progress in this field of astronomy. And also, please understand this particular issue at very initial level, that I will be just confining myself or focusing on the issue of the astronomical research only inside India. So I will not be trying to focus on any other aspects of astrophysics as well as space science. So there are, and there were different astrophysicists inside India. They were very famous, and even there are certain other astrophysicists in India also. They're working in India as well as outside India. But I am not talking of them, because my particular talk area is today will be the astronomical development. So am I audible? Can you please confirm whether I'm being able to provide my... Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, it is
Okay,
audible.
thank you. Okay, fine. So let me continue. So let me first give you the idea of the theme of my talk. As you can see here, the Indian astronomy has a stretched history starting from prehistoric to modern days. And the first evidence of the astronomical concept can be available during the period of, Indus Valley civilization, that is around 3,300 to 1,300 BC. A smart division of the Indian astronomical development into chronological sequence was proposed by Kay, following the estimates of periods of the ancient scholarly sources of information. And if I just say in a general manner, the periodic scale may be simplified as given by the idea of Kay. It can be simplified into different categories. Like the first one can be the Vedic astronomy, which is around 1,300 to 400 BC. Then it comes as post-Vedic astronomy, which is around 400 BC to 400 AD. And then classical and medieval astronomy, which is ranging from AD 400 to 19th century. And of course, the modern astronomy, which is now starting from the 20th century. So let me start with the early sign of astronomical awareness in Indus Valley. I will be showing some pictorial representation that will be very interesting, I believe. And the Dravidian word mean in Sanskrit, even it was used in Dravidian word also, for fish was associated with the homophone as mean. So they assembled this particular word mean not only in the particular meaning of fish, that is also associated with the meaning of star also. The sign with various combinations makes about 20% of the entire material of the Indus script. So you can see here that this is the different signs they produced and they have used frequently. The first one is, can see only one single fish or mean is present. So it means only a star. Otherwise, if I have, you can see one mean and three rods are there, 3 plus fish, that is as reading as mu mean. These means as 3 stars. And the famous Mrigashiras, that is actually ensembled in particular this version of this sign in the second row. And even you can find out 6 number of rods are there, 6 numbers is there with a fish. Then it is then it was called as Karumin, and it is actually meant as 6 stars. Normal days it is used as a cluster as Pleiades. 7 stars plus fish that is produced, that is called as Illumin, which is called the 7 stars, and it is known as now Ursa Major. So at that time, you can understand that at the ancient time, they tried to understand and they have somehow somehow quantified these clusters, and they have tried to propose some signals or signs for those, and you can see these are depicted by this way with the help of the sign of mean or fish. And to be continued here, that you can see one particular version is there at the very top, with one particular arrow sign is present, which is roof plus fish, which is called the May or plus mean. It is a black plus star, which is known now as Saturn. Probably they have used this particular version for the ensembling of Saturn. Then halving dividing fish, you can see that it is Pachumin, which is the green star Mercury. Probably they don't have the understanding of which one should be called as star, which one should be called as planets. So everything which is twinkling in the star or the sky, night sky, they have called these are some stars, and they have provided the particular sign as the mean or fish. Then you can see intervening space plus fish, which is called the Valley mean, which is nowadays be called as Venus, which is white or bright star. And then it comes as figure 3 with fish, which is called the Vertamine, which is the North Star. Again, there is one more version, which is fig 3 plus space, you can see, which is again Vata Valley, which is again one version of the North Star. So perhaps this is, you can see here, that this is a particular sign of Parkol, Brahma. Brahma is actually meant here as Jupiter, the golden star. Again, I'm telling you that the difference or categorization between the planets and stars, that was not perhaps, they were not aware of these things. So everything they touch this as an issue of star. So it is the particular ensembling of Brahma, which was denoted as Jupiter or the golden star. And okay, I think slide is not moving, perhaps. Let me just wait, please. Yeah, now it's moving. You can see here, this is one figure where Jupiter as Brahma with his 7 children, probably 7 stars in place. 7 sages, Saptarshi, that is being actually adapted here in this figure. So it's a very beautiful figure, and that has been somehow identified at that time of ancient age in India. That is actually the beauty of this research. So again, this particular Parkol, this particular version is coming, and astronomical research in Vedic age. Let me come to the next part of this ancient age. The early signs of astronomy in India were found in the Rig Veda and the Atharva Veda. Some sound is coming, perhaps. Can you just mute that one, please?
Sir, actually, the screen is not coming clearly in the YouTube link. We have seen clearly in the Google Meet link, but it is not coming clearly.
Okay.
Okay, it's clear. Sir.
Okay, should I continue then?
Yes, sir, clear.
Or stop in between, wait. Okay, fine. Then let me continue. Okay. So I'm talking about now the astronomical research in Vedic age. The early signs of astronomy in India were found in the Rig Veda and the Atharva Veda. And it was around the time of 2000 BC. And during this period, the astronomers used to observe the movements of stars and planets to devise astronomical charts and made their cosmological theories. The main assumptions made in Vedas are actually the following. You can see here, the universe is told and evolution and decline are cyclic. That has been actually depicted by them. Both the Vedas point to the observance of a lunar year, and the moon itself was regarded as the maker of months. So nowadays also we use the same thing, and that actually was used at that time also. That is called the Mashartha. The early concept of heliocentric concept. Heliocentric means the sun is at the center, is found in Vedic texts. That's the interesting part. There is an old Sanskrit sloka, couplet, which is as follows. Sarva Dishanam Suryaha, Suryaha, Suryaha. This means everywhere is Surya. It means what? If I am here, so everywhere I can find sun. So it means one first part is the sun is very big compared to the planets where we are observing. And also the second part is perhaps at the center, the sun is dying within this planetary system. Otherwise, Sarva Dashanam Surya, 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 this might not be possible. This couplet means that there are suns in all directions. This couplet, which describes the night sky as full of suns, indicates that in ancient times, Indian astronomers had arrived at the important discovery that the stars visible at night are similar to the sun visible during daytime. In other words, it was recognized that the sun is also a star. So it's a very beautiful path, though the nearest one, perhaps. This understanding is demonstrated in other sloka, which says that when one unsinks below the horizon, 1,000 suns takes its place. So perhaps sun is one of the stars, but as it is the nearest one, that's why it is masking the other stars. And then as the sunset comes, after that we can see the other suns. That was their actually thought. The year consisted of 12 lunar months of different names, ranging from Chaitram to Falgunam. You can see the Chaitram marked as Chaitra, and Falgunam is, the Falgun in Bengal, in other states also. Each lunar month is of 29 and a half days, almost particular they were at that time also. One month divided into Shukla Paksha, bright days, about 15 days, and Krishna Paksha, dark halves, about 15 days. The day was adopted as Tithi. A group of 2 months from a season like Vasanta, Grishma, Varsha, Sharad, Hemanta, and Shishira. That was Shishira, Sharad you use now. But this particular division of 6 categories of these rewards, that has been actually at that time also. Since 12 lunar months meant only 354 days, for every 30 months, an extra month is added. So that was actually the point. So this is actually the picture. Perhaps it's looking so blurred. So this Hello. Hello.
Yes, I have. Now it is audible, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sound was not coming somehow, and I cannot see the screen. It's stop. And how far I have progressed, perhaps a problem in the connectivity. Can you please tell me how far have I shown this slide? Is the slide coming or not? Is my slide coming? Or should I again start?
Yes, yes. Yes, sir.
Slide is there. Can it's not
Sound
showing,
is
right?
coming. Sound is coming.
No, sound
But
I'm
the
not
slide-
talking of, the slides.
Slide is not coming.
No, slide is not coming.
Not
Slide
coming,
is
sir.
not coming. Okay. Just wait, please. Sorry, Aga. Yeah, I think I have to just restart this one. Some connectivity issue is there, perhaps.
Yes.
Yeah. Please tell me when it comes. Is it coming? Please tell me.
No.
No, sir.
Not coming, sir.
So, the slide is
Not coming. Okay, I think it is showing that I'm sharing. That's the problem. Okay. Coming. Is it coming full version? Okay. Should I continue then? Okay, fine. Thank you. Okay. So please tell me which part I have actually completed. Is this particular page has been said or not? This part, or have I thought of this one? Whether when I got the disconnection, I can't say which part has been actually completed. Please confirm me this one. Have I talked this one?
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Again, you repeat this one because we didn't see this slide.
Have you just seen this particular slide, the first part, astronomical research in Vedic age?
Yes, sir.
Even this page?
This page we didn't see earlier. Actually, you can see this slide.
And this page?
Which page it is? Yes, that we have seen. This page we have seen.
Okay, so I think I should start from this page only. Right? It will be better, perhaps. Please tell me. Should I start from this page again? Restart. Hello.
Yes, sir. Or from next page. We have seen this page. From next page, you can begin again.
Okay, so this page, right?
Yes, yes, of
Hello.
course. Yes,
so I'm
yes.
starting from this page. Okay, thank you. Okay, fine. So let's start with. Very sorry for the technical issue. This is astronomical research in Vedic age. So the early signs of astronomy in India were found in the Rig Veda and the Atharva Veda, and it was dated around 2000 BC. And during this period, the astronomers used to observe movements of stars and planets to devise astronomical charts and many other cosmological surveys. The main assumptions made in Vedas are following. So here, the first, the universe is too old and its evolution and decline are cyclic. Second is both the Vedas point to the observance of a lunar year, and the moon itself was regarded as a maker of months. Marsha Karta. So you know, even today also you use this concept, and that was actually practiced at that time also. The earliest concept of heliocentric concept is found in many Vedic texts. Heliocentric means Helios is sun, so heliocentric means sun is at the center. So this particular concept was used at that time also, and there is an old Sanskrit sloka which is couplet, which is as follows: Sarva Dishanam Suryaya Suryaya Suryaha. This couplet means that there are suns in all directions, and this couplet, which describes the night sky as full of suns, indicates that in ancient times, Indian astronomers had arrived at the important discovery that the stars visible at night are similar to the sun visible during the daytime. In other words, it was recognized that the sun is also a star. So the nearest one, the understanding is demonstrated in another sloka, which says that when one sun sinks below the horizon, 1,000 suns can take its place. So you can understand that the night time when the sun sets, rather after that you can see the other stars. So they thought that every star actually is supposed to be a sun, and our sun is the nearest one. That's why I suppose that as it is the nearest one, it masks the other suns. That's why we cannot visualize the other suns at the daytime, and when night progresses, we can see other stars. So the year consisted of 12 lunar months of different names ranging from Chitram to Falguna. So you see that even today also you use this term Chitram, you know, the Chitra and Falguna as Falgun. Each lunar month is of 29.5 days, almost similar nowadays also. One month divided into Paksha, Brights and Krishna Paksha that we use even. The day was adopted as Tithi, and we use the Tithi, but not exactly for the food. Some portions of the days are called Tithi. A group of 2 months from a session, like Vashanta, Grisha, Varsha, Hemant, and Shishira. Shishira, you know, it sounds as Sharad. So, you know, even today, what we use, that has been actually practiced at that time also. Since the lunar months on 3-4 days, for every 30 months, an extra month is added. You can see this is a constellation, which is actually the things what I have depicted here. Perhaps the figure is looking black, but it depicts that part what I have seen here. So now I'm speaking of astronomical instrumental science in Vedic era. So there are different instruments that has been used at that time. Astronomers during Vedic era did not possess any technically advanced instrument, but they still managed to build their own crude equipment with which they arrive at near perfect measurements of astronomical movements. Some of them, let me say. The first is the Naman, which is the Shanku. And so the vertical part of the sun whose shadow is used to indicate the hour of the day. You have seen it today also. The cross staff, which is called the Yasti Yantra, a tool used to measure the angle between the directions of two stars. The Klepshyadja, that is the Ghati Yantra, a tool used to measure time. The armillary sphere, which is called the Kula Yantra, is a model of objects in the sky, a smooth sphere. The principal purpose is to map the constellations. And you can see the different figures. The Falada Yantra, a rectangular board with a pin and index thumb used to determine time from the sun's altitude. And then comes the equatorial sundial, Kapala Yantra, used to determine sun's angular measurement in a spherical coordinate system. Some of the figures you can see, these are the figures. You can, the third figure, it's Gammon, etc., etc. These are the figures. So let me start with some of the persons who were actually involved in this development of astronomical science in India. Astronomical research during Siddhantic era. First, Vedanta Jyotisha, the first person who was there is Lagadha around 1350 BC. Astronomy emerged as an auxiliary division correlated with the study of the Vedas named as Vedanga. Probably it developed during 100 to 1200 BC. Vedanta has 6 disciplines, and among these, Vedanga's Jyotisha, the discussions on calculation of auspicious time for rituals, astrology, and astronomy composed by Lagadha. So let me tell you one thing, that at that time there was no demarcation of the word Jyotish and Jyoti. So astrology and astronomy or astrophysics, what you say, so we cannot categorize at that time because their thought was something different. They tried to identify the position of the stars and planets accordingly, and after that they made some other statements and some rules. But I'm not talking of these statements and rules. If my position is here at that birth time, and then it will happen to me. This is as something related to Jyotisha. So this part I'm not talking of because that is something different. Might not be probably science, but I am just confining myself with the part of science because let me tell you the geometry here, the positional astronomy here. So I'm talking of only the positional astronomy part, what they developed. After that, what rules they have actually made. If I'm here, if my position is here, if Saturn is here, what will happen? That's a different issue. I'm not talking of that story. So this is a figure Vedanga Jyotisha time, the probably the Shruti, one person saying something and his Shishya is actually learning from him by Shruti, that is just hearing. So this is the figure. You can see different figures are coming. Am I audible? Hello? Is my slide coming? Hello?
Hello. Yes, sir. Yes,
Yes,
it
sir.
is audible.
Okay.
No, slide is
Okay,
also
okay, fine. Because some sound slide is coming. Okay. Some sound is coming, that's why I'm afraid somewhere. Anyway, so this is actually the figure. You can see different portions, this Hello?
Yes, sir.
Hello, again I got disconnected.
Okay, now it is okay.
Is my screen coming?
No, no, no.
Oh, okay. Just wait, please. Please tell me and confirm if it comes.
এখানে লকডাউন হয়েছে
Hello?
হ্যালো
Hello.
Yes, the slide is not
Is it
coming.
coming?
No, slide is not coming.
Okay.
You screen share this other.
Yeah, I have already shared the screen. It's taking time somehow in between. Please wait. Think. There is one connectivity. I will request others because I think I should also drop my video part because there is one problem in the connectivity perhaps. So others, if some of you are using your video, think better. Let me just off my video first, and others please switch off your video and the audio mode because that might be the problem in the connectivity. Is it coming? No. Okay, then I think I just, it's a problem. Is it coming now?
Sir, it has come.
Hello?
Slide number 16. Yes, sir, it has come.
Okay, fine. I think, yeah. Okay. So this particular slide, I think I stopped it with. So perhaps I will show this Chakra. You know everything about that one. So pick something like the zodiac structure during divided into 12 parts, and each of course taking 30 to 30 degrees, named as zodiac signs in order as Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, and Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. And these are owned by the different planets, like 7 planets to 9 planets. And however, the 7 planets comprise the Sun, Moon. There were no demarcation between the star and planets, etc. Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. And other 2 were shadow planets, invisible, called as Rahu and Ketu. What is actually Rahu Ketu? They are the northern and southern nodes of the moon, nothing else. Further, the divisions are followed by the 27 nakshatras and constellations that they never was thought, each measuring about 13.2 degrees arc of the zodiac. So you can see the divisions are coming accordingly. Each segmentation is coming uniformly, just dividing this particular angle what is covered. The ancient Indian astrologers have always left precision in their studies. They further subdivided this arc of 13.2 degree into 4 parts of 3.2 degree each, known as padas. So we now have 27 multiplied by 4, 108. So this is actually the reason for 108 beats in the Japamala. How this Japamala is actually counted as 108 padas or beats, that is accordingly like this. That was a thought that. So this is clear what we have just to show you, nothing else. And then with the range of 900 to 800 beats, also found that the Earth was round and supported the heliocentric theory as mentioned in the Vedas. In astronomical texts, Shatapatha Brahmana, Yagnavalkya also mentioned that the sun strings these worlds, the Earth, the planets, the atmosphere to himself on the thread, which indicates that Earth and other planets revolve around the sun in orbits. He also recognized that the sun is much larger than the Earth and accurately measured the relative distance of the sun moon from the Earth as 108 times the diameters of these bodies. So again, 108 comes here, almost close to the modern value obtained using latest instruments around 107.6. So how the precision was made at that time, that's the beauty for the sun, and around 110.6 for the moon. Yagnavalkya also proposed a 95-year cycle and determined the average length of the year as around 65.24675 days. You can see the perfectness almost, and only 6 minutes longer than the modern value of these particular times. So it's a very useful part of the research work. So this is one image of Yagnavalkya that is taken from internet. And then Brahmana, he actually was around 900 to 800 BC. He mentioned in his text that the sun never sets nor rises, which indicates that the sun is stationary, and in turn it points to the heliocentric system. So it is actually thought to be very relative according to our position. Set, sunset, sun rising, that is actually coming to the portion of our portion where we are standing or where we are actually lying. So there is no particular absolute setting of sun or absolute rise of sun that he thought. So it's a part of that one, this particular figure of him. And let me come to the classical astronomy, Aryabhatta. We don't try to understand Aryabhatta. We don't use the term here Aryabhatta. Probably he was not Aryabhatta, he was Aryabhatta. That is a part of Brahmi, which is known as Aryabhatta, but later on it was confined that perhaps he was not coming from the Brahmin part of society, so he should be called as Aryabhatta. So he stayed in the earth around 476 to 550. He born in the year this 476 AD. Aryabhatta's birthplace is always debated. Many say that he belongs to the region lying between the rivers Narmada and Kaveri, which was called as Asmaka country. Some commentators recognize the Asmaka country with the modern Maharashtra, but however, the place at which he wrote his excellent work Aryabhattiya in year 499 BD is left as Kusumapura or Pataliputra. You know, this is the modern place as Patna, which is modern Patna. You know, his very famous books on astronomy are Aryabhattiya and Aryabhatta Siddhanta. His important contributions are as follows. He made some very remarkable contributions. This is one figure. Earth, with sun revolving around the sun, also rotates on its own axis. Light on the moon and the other planets, including Earth, is reflected from the sun. Planets revolve around the sun in elliptical orbits, and he propounded an eccentric elliptical model of planets from which he accurately calculated some astronomical constants. Calculated various astronomical concepts such as the time of occurrences of solar and lunar eclipse, motion of the moon expressed as a difference equation, rather, a number of rotations of the Earth. He also proposed the theory of Earth's rotation, which laid undiscovered until the European Renaissance. And the Copernicus, what he mentioned. The mathematical concepts of forecasting ellipses given by Aryabhatta, it should be Aryabhatta, please bear with me, gave the Europeans some methods of measuring the volume of spheres and the area of triangles. Aryabhatta stated that these particular number rotations of the Earth equal to this lunar orbits. You can see the numbers. This is an extremely accurate ratio of a fundamental astronomical ratio. It comes as this as 27.3964, etc. And he almost calculated it perfectly. Perhaps the oldest astronomical constant calculated to such accuracy at that time. Please understand. Who's supposed to be of the Ratna in the Navarasabha, Chandra he stayed in around 505-587 AD. He found that the same force which is holding objects to the earth also held the celestial bodies in the place. Also notice that there must be some attractive force which is called Guruvakarshan, which kept objects stationary on the earth. That is Madhyamakarshan, you know. His inventions were based upon an independent idea of equilibrium and a recognition of gravitational theory long before Newton. He extended his findings in Panchasiddhantika. He is known as Newton of Indian astronomy. Of course, his contribution was very valid. And in Siddhanta, part of the Panchasiddhantika, Sun is described that he is denominated as Hirdharva. You know, the slow was there. The blessed as being the generator. He also referred to as the supreme source of light, Jyoti, upon the border of darkness. It revolves, bringing beings into the being, the creators of creatures. The Surya Siddhanta also says that bestowing upon him the scriptures, Vedas, as gifts and establishing him within the egg as grandfather of all worlds. He himself, that is under Brahmanda, himself then the revolves causing existence. These arguments supports that the thought of the heliocentric system. So again, the heliocentric system has been actually validated by Indian astronomers at that time. So Varamihira image, and this is one particular Bhurjapatra for Panchasiddhantika. So then Brahmagupta, around 590 to 620, Brahmagupta was born in this year, 598 in Bhinmal, Rajasthan. He was the foremost astronomer of his time. He made many advances in astronomy. Brahmagupta was the most accomplished of the ancient Indian astronomers. His great work, The Opening of the Universe, Brahmasputa Siddhanta, is written in verse form. He calculated the circumference of Earth around 500 yojanas. One yojana is around 7.2 kilometers, or around it comes finally as 36,000 kilometers, which is very close to the actual figure. He explained that since the moon is closer to the Earth than the sun, the degree of the illuminated part of the moon depends on the relative positions of the sun and the moon, and this can be computed from the size of the angle between the two bodies. Brahmagupta also calculated the instantaneous motion of a planet, gave the correct equations for a parallax, and some information related to the computation of eclipses. About the Earth's gravity, he said bodies fall towards the Earth, as it is in the nature of the Earth to attract bodies, just as it in the nature of the water to flow. He emphasized the Aryabhata's idea that another day starts at midnight. So this is an image I got from internet from Brahmagupta. Then came Vaskara around 600 to 680 AD. Vaskara at the beginning of 7th century AD, discussed on planetary longitudes, heliacal rising and setting of the planets, conjunction among the planets and stars, solar and lunar eclipses, and the phases of the moon in his book Mahabhaskaraya and Laghu Bhaskariya and the Aryabhata Bhasya, a commentary on the Aryabhatiya. So he is Vaskara I. And then came Lala around 720 to 790 AD. Lala lived in the central India, possibly in the Lata region in modern South Gujarat. He authored the Shishya Dhivra Vidya, treatise which expands the intellect of students, which corrects several assumptions of Aryabhata. The Shishya Dhivridhya of Lala itself is divided into two parts. One is Grahadhyaya and second one is Galadhyaya. So Grahadhyaya, this is the chapter from 1 to 13, deals with the planetary calculations, determination of the mean and the true planets, and three problems pertaining to diurnal motion of Earth, eclipses, rising and setting of the planets, the various carps of the moon, planetary and astral conjunctions, and complementary situations of the sun and the moon. Then the Goladhyaya, starting from chapter 14 to up to 22nd one, deals with the graphical representation of planetary motion, astronomical instruments, spheres, and emphasizes on the corrections and rejections of flawed principle. So this is then came the medieval era astronomy. Vaskara II or Vaskaracharya can be coined as the first person in that medieval era who contributed something. He stayed around 1114 to 1185 AD. He was born in the Bijapur in Karnataka. He expanded the Aryabhata's heliocentric model in the famous book of Siddhanta Shiromuni. Vaskara II was the head of an astronomical observatory at Ujjain. Apart from Siddhanta Shiromuni, he also wrote Karana Kutuhala. He reported on his observations of planetary positions, conjunctions, eclipses, cosmography, geography, mathematics, and astronomical equipment used in his research at the observatory in Ujjain, which he actually headed. Vaskara II accurately defined many astronomical quantities, including the length of the sidereal year, the time that is required for the Earth to orbit the Sun. He also got this idea of 365.2588 days. The modern accepted measurement is, you can see 365.256. It's almost very similar. The difference is just about 3.5 minutes. So Vaskara II is here. So then came Sripati around 1019 to 1066 AD. Sripati was the author of Dhikortika Karana in the year 1039, a work of 20 verses on solar and lunar eclipses. Dhruvan Answer, written in 1056, a work of 105 verses on calculating planetary longitudes, eclipses, and planetary transits. Siddhanta Shekhara, the crest of established doctrines, a major work on astronomy in 19 chapters. And he followed the Brahmagupta school. He followed the measurements developed and models developed by Brahmagupta. He showed first the moon's second inequity. Then came Mahendra Suri. Mahendra Dayashankar Godsuri is the 14th century Jain astronomer who wrote the Yantra Raja, the first Indian treatise on the astrolabe. The astrolabe was introduced into India at the time of Firoz Shah Tughlaq. He reigned around 1351 to 1388. And Mahendra Suri wrote the first Sanskrit treatise on the astrolabe, entitled as Yantaraja on AD around 1370. The book consists of 182 verses related to the astrolabe, and Suri had impact of astronomers like Padmanabha, who existed during 1426. And this is his image you can see here. The Delhi Sultanate was established around 1200, and from that time on, Muslim culture flourished in India. The ideas of Islamic astronomy began to appear in works in the Sanskrit language, and it is actually the Islamic ideas on the astrolabe which Mahendra Suri wrote on his famous text. It is clear from the various references in the text and also from the particular values that Mahendra Suri used, the angle of perspective, etc., that his work is based on Islamic rather than traditional Indian astronomic work. So that is deviation. You can see that something other schools, what is followed in India at that time, he deviated from that part and he started his work taking into one cultural aspect on one scientific aspect. His important contributions are presenting a fundamental formula around the numerical table for drawing an astrolabe, although the proof itself has not been detailed at that time. Longitudes of 32 stars as well as their latitudes have also been mentioned. Mahendra Suri also explained the Naman, equatorial coordinates and elliptical coordinates he also mentioned. Then came around the year 1444 to 1544 AD, Kelalur Nilkanta Somayaji. Aryabhata's model of Venus and Mercury was researched and revised by him in his composition Tantra Sangraha. It was written at that time as around 1501, and he followed the Kerala school of astronomy and mathematics. So you can see different branches are now opening at this time of medieval period. The equation of the center of all these planets remained the most accurate until the time of John Kepler in the 17th century. Nilkantha Somayaji in his Aryabhatiya Bhasya, a commentary on Aryabhata's Aryabhatiya, developed his own computational system for a partially heliocentric planetary model. So somehow he deviated. He talked about the partially heliocentric planetary model. He also authored a treatise titled Jyotir Mimamsa, stressing the necessity and importance of astronomical observations to obtain correct parameters for computations. So let me tell you one comment here. This particular work is a partial heliocentric system, means it is not actually deviating or saying that it is not absolutely heliocentric. It says that there is importance of studying other planets which is outside the solar system. So extrasolar planets he talked about, and he said that these extrasolar planets are also creating some influence on the positional astronomy in the solar system. That was his thought. Then Achyuta Pisarita, around 1550 to 1621 AD, he came, and in the book of Sputaniarna, Determination of True Planets, he detailed an elliptical correction to the existing notions. So that circular orbit path is now converted into elliptical path. His another work, Karnottama, deals with eclipses, complementary relationship between the sun and the moon, and the derivation of the mean and true planets. Uparaga Kriya Karma, method of computing eclipses, Achyuta Pisarita suggests improvements in the methods of calculation of these eclipses. And then came the Mughal astronomy. I just meant here some general remark because there were at that time no particular person came or appeared in that particular context. Actually, it was something, a group work. And the Mughal Empire, the 16th and 17th centuries, saw a synthesis between the Islamic astronomy and Indian astronomy, where Islamic observational techniques and instruments were combined with Hindu computational techniques. It was some kind of Sankara or something hybridization. It was inspired by the idea of Akbar, probably. Well, there appears to have been little concern for theoretical astronomy. As I mentioned, Muslim and Hindu astronomers in India continued to make advances in observational astronomy and produced nearly 100 Jij. This particular Zij is astronomical text tabulating information on the apparent positions and motions of the sun, moon, planets, and stars, especially such a text written in Arabic or Persian treatises. Humayun built a personal observatory near Delhi, while Jahangir and Shah Jahan were also intending to build observatories but were unable to do so. The instruments and observational techniques used at the Mughal observatories were mainly derived from the Islamic tradition and the computational techniques from the Hindu tradition. In particular, one of the most remarkable astronomical instruments invented in Mughal India is the seamless celestial globe. So at that parallel time, apart from the Mughal part, that they were the friends of Mughals, I'm talking of the part of Rajasthan where the Jantar Mantar appeared in Jaipur. The Jantar Mantar is a collection of 19 architectural astronomical instruments. It was built by Rajput King Savai Jai Singh II, who actually founded the Jaipur. According his name, the Jaipur, this name is actually famous. And the monument was completed in the year probably 1734, and it actually features the world's largest stone sundial, and it is actually UNESCO World Heritage Site. Next, the details of these 19 instruments are as follows. I'm not talking of all the details. First one is Chakra Yantra, which is actually 4 semicircular arcs on which a Gaman actually casts a shadow, and it is showing some declination of the sun at 4 specified times of the day. Then came the Dakshin Vritti Yantra, which is measuring the meridian, altitude, and zenith distances of celestial bodies. Then Digamsha Yantra, which is a pillar in the middle of 2 concentric outer circles, and it actually measures the azimuth of the sun and calculate the time of sunrise and sunset. You can see the figure of Jantar Mantar, Jaipur. And then to continue, Disha Yantra, which shows direction. Dhruva Darshak Patika, observe and find the location of pole star, which is the Dhruva Tara, with respect to the other celestial bodies. Jayaprakash Yantra, which is actually 2 hemispherical pole-based sundials with marked marble slabs, and it maps inverted images of sky and allow the observer to move inside the instrument. Then Kapali Yantra, which measures coordinates of celestial bodies in azimuth and equatorial distance. Then Kanali Yantra analyzes the stream of water. Kranti Vrittya Yantra measures longitude and latitude of celestial bodies. Laghu Samrat Yantra, the smallest sundial at the monument. It is inclined at around 27 degrees to measure time. Mishra Yantra, meaning mixed instruments, it is a compilation of 5 different instruments. Nadi Valaya Yantra, 2 sundials on different faces of the instrument. Pallavi Yantra measures equinoctial shadow of the Naman at noon. Rama Yantra, an upright building used to find the altitude and the azimuth of the sun. Rashi Valaya Yantra, 12 Gaman dials that measures ecliptic coordinates of stars, planets, and all the 12 constellation systems that was used at that time. Shastansh Yantra next to Vrihat Shamrat Yantra. This instrument is a 60-degree arc built in the meridian plane within a dark chamber. This actually works to identify the sun's pinhole image falls on a scale below, enabling the observer to measure the zenith distance, declination, and the diameter of the sun. Then Unnatamsha Yantra, a metal ring divided into 4 segments by horizontal and vertical lines with a hole in the middle, and it works to measure the altitude of celestial bodies. Brihat Samrat Yantra, as mentioned earlier, world's largest Naman sundial, which is actually measuring the time in interval of 2 seconds using shadow cast from the sunlight. Then the last one is Yantar Raj Yantra. It is about 2.43 meter bronze astrolabe, one of the largest in the world, used only once a year, calculates the Hindu calendar. Now I'm coming to the last part of my talk, modern astronomy. The first contributor is Meghnad Shah. Meghnad Shah was, famous astrophysicist, but his contribution was in the field of astronomy also, in positional astronomy. That's why I mentioned his name. He is a prominent name in Indian astrophysics. He is also known for his calendar reform, which was also one of his subjects of concern. Shah tried to inculcate scientific methods in time for reckoning the way of the calendar reform. And the year 1952, when CSIR appointed a calendar reform committee under his chairmanship, Shah worked very hard, and wholeheartedly he actually got these particular work finally at the form of calendars, which were used in different parts of India to make an Indian calendar. He also worked on a world calendar also as an image of Professor Shah. And then came Minali Kallat Vainuvappu. He was very famous, developing different instruments, astronomical devices. He is called the father of modern astronomy in India. He was born in the year 1927. He was a prominent Indian astronomer who did much to set up new observatories and astronomical research centers in his native country. He was also the president of International Astronomical Union. He jointly discovered the Wilson-Bappu effect along with Olin Shaddock Wilson, an American astronomer. Bappu helped establish several astronomical institutions in India, including the Vainu Bappu Observatory, named after him, and also contributed to the establishment of the modern Indian Institute of Astrophysics. His efforts of building an indigenous large optical telescope and a very research observatory led to the founding of an optical observatory. I will have the images. I will show that of this Kavalur in the Javadi Hills near Vellore district, Tamil Nadu, inaugurated in the year 1986 by the then Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi, who named the observatory and its large telescope after Bappu. The Vainu Bappu Observatory is one of the main observatories of the Indian Institute of Astrophysics. Later, a number of discoveries were made from the Vainu Bappu Observatory. That's why this particular observatory is very famous as a landmark of Indian modern astronomical device. So his image. And this is the one figure of Vainu Bappu Observatory, which is stated at Indian Institute of Astrophysics. Then Amil Kumar Das, not Amo, this is Amit Kumar Das rather, was also a notable Indian astronomer. He was the director of the Kodaikanal Observatory during the period of 1946 to 1960. In 1960, he was responsible for installing a tower or a tunnel telescope to perform the first heliosismology investigation. The crater Das on the far side of the moon is named after him. So heliosismology, it is Helios, sun seismology is something oscillation. So it actually tried to identify the oscillation, the measure of the oscillation at the level of sun. So it's a very, very important aspect of Indian astronomical improvement. So this is one figure of this one. And then Govind Sarup came in 1929. Professor Govind Sarup, born 21st March 1929, Uttar Pradesh, India, of Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, is a radio astronomer and one of the pioneers of radio astronomy in India. He is known not only for his many important research contributions in several areas of astronomy and astrophysics, but also for his outstanding achievements in building ingenious, innovative, and powerful observational facilities for frontline research in radio astronomy. He has been the key scientist before concept, design, and installation of the Uti radio telescope. I think I have the figure, and the giant meterwave radio telescope, GMRT, near Pune. So he is Govind Sarup. This is actually the Uti radio telescope figure. And this is the giant meterwave radio telescope, GMRT, National Center for Radio Astrophysics. And this is Indian Astronomical Observatory, IOO, located at near Leh in Ladakh. This is under the aegis of Indian Institute of Astrophysics. This works for optical, infrared, and gamma ray telescopes. And finally, I will be touching this issue of India-based neutrino observatory. It's a long-standing work. Still now, I tell you that the work is in progress. And at the time of my research work, when I initiated my PhD thesis, at that time I was hearing about this neutrino observatory will be developed. But later on, due to some technical problems and some other problems to identify a proper position, etc., different things, different agitations came. One site was actually finalized, but after that, some local people agitated at that time, so it was stopped. So still, finally, one location has been identified and finalized, perhaps, and still the work is going on. But it should be the giant part of the development in Indian astronomy because it's a solo Indian project. And it is, in short, known as INO, is a particle physics research project under construction to primarily study atmospheric neutrinos. There are different sources of neutrino. One is, of course, from the sun. Another one is coming from the atmosphere also. So it is dealing with atmospheric neutrinos. It will be rather dealing with atmospheric neutrinos. And the position is at around 1,200 meters deep cave under INO peak near Theni, Tamil Nadu, India. This project is expected to provide a precise measurement of neutrino mixing. Neutrino mixing, this is one puzzle in neutrino science, that finally we identify a certain number of neutrino per day. But theory says something else. Why this thing is happening? So it is actually expected during this atmosphere, electron, tau, and muon neutrinos, they are mixed somehow. And as we are trying to identify electron neutrinos only, these electron neutrinos somehow in between, It is now converted into tau neutrino and mu neutrino. That's why we cannot identify that number of electron neutrinos. So what we estimate theoretically, we always get something less number of neutrino in the detectors. So this work is actually going on. This will be very interesting project, and it is a multi-institute collaboration in Indian, of course, all institutes, and one of the biggest experimental particle physics projects undertaken in India, as I mentioned earlier. So this is the figure. This work is still going on. This is the peak you can see. This is the underground project of INO. So I don't have any conclusion because only I have reported the different stages of development of astronomy in India. So let me summarize here, and that from the very beginning, from the ancient part, from the you can see that this Indus Valley, then the Vedic age came. Then the medieval part came, Hindu dynasty as well as Muslim dynasty, Sultanate, Mughal dynasty, even the part of Rajasthan, they also contributed. And next in the modern astronomy, there is a bunches of different developments in India with the help of some pioneers in this work. So I mentioned some of the few, perhaps I missed some remarkable persons. I'm sorry for that one. And I thank you everyone for your very kind attention. I will be glad if you can say some queries, or if you have any query, I will try to answer. Thank you, everyone. Over to the organizers.
Thank you, sir, for your nice presentation. Your lecture enriched us in all respect. Thank you for this.
Thank you.
Giving the lecture. Thank you, sir.
So I have one question, sir.
Yes, of course.
You have mentioned many names. Can you say one names we know very well? Naran Chandra Rana, very near to our place, Birla College. Can you say something about Naran Chandra Rana? Tuition he has. Can you say something about?
Yeah,
Naran?
the point is, I mentioned earlier that I will be confining my talk only in the issue of development of positional astronomy. So I have just willingly not mentioned these persons who have contributed in the field of astrophysics. What happened even for Chandrasekhar also? I missed the name of course, I have not used the name of Chandrasekhar. Chandrasekhar, you know, was a Nobel laureate. And I have not used some other Padmanabhan, etc., some persons like Jayanta Vishnu Narlikar even, because they were either theoretical cosmologists or cosmophysicists or theoretical astrophysicists. So that's why I have not used their name. Of course, I have tried to use only those names who have contributed in the field of astronomy. Even S.N. Bosch name I have not mentioned because he perhaps not direct any involvement in the astronomy, but I have used the name of Meghnad Shah, Professor Meghnad Shah, because he worked in the field of astrophysics. You know, the famous Shah's ionization equation was there, but also he contributed very significantly in the field of astronomy. Only those names actually came here in my talk who have worked in the field of development of astronomy in Indian context.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Any other question, please? Should I stop my presentation?
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your wonderful effort to organize this kind of workshop at this very difficult time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So today, today we close our session. Sir.
Subir, please stop the live. Okay, very much. Thank you to everybody. Subir, please stop the live.